right now.
Excellent. Hello.
Hello. So, Maria, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. So, so tonight we have the Cake or Peace webinar with Guy Pignolet.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. So,
Okay.
is the sound okay?
As always, in the first seconds, we have some echoes and so on, but now
Yeah,
be
sure.
quiet.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Okay,
okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah, so the Cake or Peace is a symbolic culinary project. It evokes the Apollo-Soyuz docking system as a metaphor for peace. Guy Pignolet is Senior Space Educator involved with the Réunion Island Space Initiative, and Julien Leveneur promote this initiative as a call for peace through a symbolic cake. The initiative includes the upcoming publication of a related book on December 20, 2025, so later on this month. This project ties together space themes and peace advocacy using a culinary metaphor linked to Réunion Island and its community. Together with the French champion of pastry, Julien Leveneur, we are launching the Piece of Cake project of home pastry cooking of cakes in the shape of the EPAS docking system for the world promotion of the Apollo-Soyuz industry cooperation spirit that will help the development of SRI visions. We shall ask people worldwide to make cakes in their kitchens and tell their families, neighbors, and their local economic community. We shall ask them to send their recipe and 2 pictures of their cakes. We shall make also a limited selection of the most interesting contributions and edit an internet book that will also mention all contributors worldwide. As for our speaker, Guy Pignolet, he is a senior space educator and researcher, originally from the French European island called La Réunion. He is an alumnus of the prestigious École Polytechnique and holds a PhD ABD in behavioral sciences and organizations from Cornell University. His career path has been diverse, ranging from working with petroleum companies in the Middle East, Nigeria, and Indonesia to serving 22 years in the French National Center for Space Studies, the CNES, focusing on interplanetary future plans and space education. After returning to La Réunion, Pignolet became involved in local regional development and education, including wireless energy transmission research at the University of La Réunion. He was formerly president of the Education Committee of the International Astronautical Federation, the IAF, and has actively promoted space-related activities and education in his home region and beyond. He is also known as the creator of the flag of La Réunion and continues to engage in scientific, educational, and intercultural projects that extend La Réunion's influence to a planetary and interplanetary scale. So, Monsieur Pignolet, the floor is yours. We're all ears.
Yeah. Okay, just before giving the floor to Guy, let me add that this is the 6th preliminary webinar of our Congress that will take place next year from 30 of June to 4 of July. It will take place virtually, so we will be connected by Zoom and YouTube with the whole world for 5 days, and we will discuss what we think are the key points of civilian space development to start expanding humanity into space. Of course, peace is one of our key topics that we want to discuss, and we want to understand what we can do to help peace on Earth and beyond. And for sure, the proposal made by Guy Pignolet from La Réunion is a very good proposal, because he is proposing to share a cake, something sweet for all the people of Earth, hoping that everybody will stop fighting, stop making wars, and work together for peace. Better to cook together than use arms and offend each other. So, Guy, please, the floor is yours, and I will share your slides, and you will tell me when I have to turn
Yes, thank you very much, and hello to everyone who is listening, because the Space Renaissance Initiative is a great organization. Thank you, Adriano, for showing my first page, which is a map of the world to show where is Réunion. And Réunion on this map, which was designed by the imagination of Buckminster Fuller, geodesic dome and many other things, is one of the most flat, faithful representation of planet Earth. And here, like people also in Australia do that, I have rearranged the place of the different location so that Réunion will be on top in the center of the map. Where is Réunion? It's an island which is 1 million people, which has that's enough to have everything you need to have life as a society. We have agriculture, we have some industry, we have education, we have police, we have a road department, everything. So it's big enough to be like a small nation. And at the same time, as you mentioned, we are part of France and the European Union, which there are only two places like this in the world, which are Réunion and Hawaii. It is important to be dependent or attached to a large country, because if in our management, in our government, we make mistake, we do not die of that. Hawaii will not die of making mistake. Réunion will not die of making mistakes because of the support from whole Europe, or because for Hawaii, the support of America. Réunion is more special because we have come from the whole world. 300 years ago, there was nobody living in Réunion, which is isolated in the middle of what I call the Réunionnese Ocean, but most people call it also the Indian Ocean. But we may call it the Réunionnese. We are in the middle of the Réunionnese Ocean. We are far from Africa. We are 1,000 kilometers from Madagascar, 3,000 kilometers from India, 5,000 kilometers from Australia, and 10,000 kilometers from most of the main countries in Europe. So the island is isolated, which make it very specific. It's not, you don't go just there by a few hours of sailing. It used to take months, and now still it takes, with modern aircraft, it takes 11 hours to come from Paris or from European mainland countries to Réunion. So we have come over 300 years. We've come from several European countries, but also from Africa, from Madagascar, and after slavery was abolished, we have people who came to work to Réunion. Many came from India, and a little bit more than a century ago, many people came from China. So this is not the case. So you do not have so much diversity in Hawaii. So Réunion is very special on planet Earth because we are the world champions of diversity. We have many different religions in Réunion that work well together. We have different culture, and because we are a volcano with deep valleys and what we call isolated parts, this helps us to maintain the diversity of our cultures. So we are not a melting pot, but in every family in Réunion, we have traces from the different sources, from Europe, from Africa, from India, and from China mostly, but also from various countries, like many people who were in former colonies of European countries, who didn't like to come back to Europe after half a century ago, the end of colonization in most parts of the world. Some people came to Réunion also, but they thought it was like a colony, but Réunion is not, and they are part of our diversity. So we even have some Americans who are working here, and we have a few that will say, oh, you see the name of Pavel Vinogradov, who is the dean of the Russian cosmonaut, and Vladimir Syromyatnikov, and both of them say that they are Réunionnais of Russian origin. And we have one way, for instance, people, even some people who came from mainland France are Réunionnais and some are not. The difference is where are you from? And if people say, I am from Paris, they are not yet Réunionnais. He says, I come from Paris and I've been living here for many years, they are Réunionnais. So that's how we make the difference. And this is how we come with our million people to be the world champions of diversity. And this is because of our mountains, because we are isolated, and this is a very special thing. We live in a world, as you can see on this map designed by Buckminster Fuller, who made the geodesic dome and many inventions, has very little deformation, and if you will fold it and glue it, you can make, with this flat piece of paper, you can make a very nice and fairly accurate globe. So that shows you, and we can see that our world has many problems. This is planet Earth. This is the only place where people live in the solar system as we know at the present time. We still don't know whether we'll discover some life in the ocean of satellites on other planets, and life will extend thanks to the work of SRI to the Earth-Moon environment, because we are a dual planet. We now know about the origin of the Moon, which was part of the Earth and separated from with the impact of Theia 4.5 billion years ago. So we are a dual planet, the Earth-Moon, and the Earth-Moon system is where we shall soon expand. But our planet is in the situation today, it's like a chicken in the egg after 20 days of incubation. The embryo of the chick has grown, and it takes the whole place inside the egg, and after 20 days there is no more food, no more space, And this looks like many of the problems of the Earth, where we are running short of energy, we are running short of space, and maybe too many people on planet Earth. We see problem of resources, and well, let's go. Maybe if the Earth is like in the situation of a chick after 20 days of incubation, maybe Gaia, our mother planet, is about to give birth to small planet in the solar system, and this is one of the goals of SRI, Space Renaissance International or Initiative, and we shall want to expand in the solar system. Why? Because we have many resources in the solar system, and I had a chance, as you explained in my short bio, after I had been working as an engineer looking for oil in part of the world. I worked 2 years in Indonesia, was in charge of training local employees for all Indonesia, and I learned about education, and then I went to Cornell to learn about management, and I had a chance to have one of my teachers was Brian O'Leary, who was an astronaut who became the assistant of Jerry O'Neill, who wrote in '75 about the high frontier. Okay, you have right, left, and the high frontier, which is a new frontier that we should look for. And if we may have the second slide, slide B, it will show, oh, this is air and space activities in the world. This dates back from a few years, but basically that hasn't changed. The red part, you have North America to the left, you have Europe in the middle, and to the other side you have the rest of the world. And it's almost the same. The red is civil aviation and industrial development. The blue is space activity, and the yellow is military activities for war and fight and destruction. So you see that most of the air and space industries today work for destruction, not for construction. And this is one of our big problems. On our planet, we have currently the problems with the war in Ukraine. We have the war in the Middle East, and maybe 200 places at this time around the world where people are fighting, killing each other by hundreds and thousands of people, and this is totally crazy. I once made a presentation for the development at the French Senate for the distinction between the military. Military is a form of organization that may be useful sometime, but people mix it with what we call the design of not weapons, but we say supply, and making supplies, but in French it's called armament, arms, but you get most of the arms are destruction things like cars, planes for bombs, guns, and everything like this. But we say also that when we study and go to school, go to university, you get armed to conduct and be ready to be successful in our life. And our matter in shipping consists in putting on board of a ship all what you need for a long cruise, for days or months, sometime, what you need to live. So first, the supply people, manufacturers, their work is to put resources together which can be deployed quickly, that are ready to be deployed. And most people, as you see in the yellow, make it deploy to make destruction, but it can be also deployed for survival. And this is where defense comes around. Defense is about survival. Survival. And survival of the people for which you have a defense department. For many years, defense, the problem of defense has been fighting nasty neighbors who wanted to take over your place or your belongings and things like this, and making wars. But today, defense of people, defense of mankind, is mostly securing energy, securing place for people, securing resources that allow us to manufacture what we need to live. That has nothing to do with war. And now what we have war, which is often confused with military, with supply procurement, and with defense, but war is just a disease of mind, of people, many politicians, and many leaders of the industry, big managers, who still have in their mind an education. They are obsolete by 100 years. We have bright people who do politics. We have bright people who are in business, even in big business, but the big managers, and this was very well described by Rick Tumlinson in one of the earlier seminars, webinars by Space Renaissance. Rick Tumlinson said that many of our politicians and managers of big companies have obsolete ideas. And this is one of the things we need to change. And this is why we have almost, how many do we have? Almost 200 companies and organizations who have now joined Space Renaissance. And we will have this world webinar next year where I engage everyone to join, you know, like this was done. And this talk today is one of the preliminary meetings for this future. Bon, let's go to next slide. Oh, just wait. Okay, come back to the previous slide for just for a few seconds. Yeah, if we could mix the blue part with the yellow part and make it green, and that could become the biggest industry in the world, making peaceful development to develop our world on Earth and in the solar system by using all the energy and all the employment that we have to make destruction weapons. So let's go to the gate of the world, which is the symbol of the Apollo-Soyuz system. Not all people in the world like wars. And there is one special man that was mentioned in the first slide, who is a Réunionnais of Russian origin. His name is Vladimir Syromyatnikov. Vladimir, Volodya for the French, was born in Arkhangelsk, and his parents came to the northern suburbs of Moscow at the end of World War II. Vladimir did good studies at the engineering school of Bowman, who was one of the best schools for
What happened? Oh, I'm afraid we have lost. Guy. Okay.
Yeah, we lost the contact for a couple of minutes,
Okay.
but now we are back. Okay.
Great.
So the day when Vladimir got his degree in 1956, one of his neighbors told him to come with him to see where he was working the next day. And they traveled about 1 hour by train to the north of Moscow to a small village where he came to a well-protected factory, and he met a big man. He said, "Congratulations, young man. My name is Sergei Korolev. I am making the first artificial satellite of planet Earth. Do you want to be part of my team too?" And so Vladimir Syromyatnikov was one of the builders of the first artificial satellite. Now, when we can tell about my life, in the 90s, I became chairman of the education committee of the IAF, and I traveled a lot around the world, and this is where I became a friend of Vladimir Syromyatnikov. And when I used to travel to Moscow, I was staying in his home. When he happened to come to Paris, because I was working between Réunion and Paris, he was staying in my Paris home. So we became friends. And in '96, in my office at the French office of the French Space Agency, I had the visit of the first secretary of the Russian embassy in France, and he had with him a cameraman from the Russian television, a teacher, and 3 kids, 15-year-old. I said, "What do you want?" And the kids were working in a vocational high school, 15-year-old, making iron work. And they said for the 40 years anniversary of Sputnik, they would like to make an operational model of the first Sputnik. But they had no experience in electronics. At the CNES and all over France, we had good teams making experimental rockets full of electronics. So the young Russians say, "We want to work with French people and for the electronics of our artificial scale model of Sputnik. So I looked all over France and I found two schools, one near Toulouse and one in Réunion, where the high school master was a radio amateur and he had a radio group in his school. And so they decided to work with the young Russians. And so for 6 months, we had 5 young Russian students and 7 young Réunionnese students, 15-year-old, who worked together to make a scale model, 1/3 scale of the first Sputnik. Of course, 15-year-old, the Russian didn't speak much French, the Réunionnese didn't speak much Russian, and neither were good in English. So we say we make a virtual sphere, 18 centimeters in diameter. The Russians will work outside, the Réunionnese work inside to make the beep beep thing, and everyone does their best. And Energia, the Russian company, made a ring, and we attach the work of the young Russian to the ring, and inside the work of the young Réunionnese, and the satellite was launched by hand by Vladimir, launched by hand. You can launch a satellite by hand. Depends from where you launch it. It was taken on board the Mir space station by Pavel Vinogradov during one of his flights, and he took his spacesuit, took the high school satellite in his hand and launched it. And the orbit was 600 meters higher than the orbit of Mir. And the satellite worked on batteries for 3 months. It was received by 1,000 radio amateurs from 40 different countries, and this was a big success. And I received a prize for that, for coaching this high school satellite, and I received that at the in Princeton from Rick Tomlinson himself. That was in '99. So this was a great success. And after, and of course, who helped us? Vladimir Syromyatnikov, who came several times to Réunion to help our students, because he had been one of the makers of the first Sputnik. And when he died 15 years ago, Réunion Island government and the city of Saint-Denis, where they had the high school, decided to make a big monument to honor the memory of Vladimir Syromyatnikov. And what he had done, Syromyatnikov did not like war. So for the many years he had been working in Padlipki, which after the death of Korolev became the city of Korolev, he had 1 hour of train every morning, 1 hour of train every evening to go home. And what he did, he was learning My Tailor is Rich. He was learning English. So he was at Energia one of the people who was best in reading and writing English. So he was in international meetings, and after 1969 and people going on the moon, he was at a meeting in 71 or 72 to celebrate the landing on the moon. And he met Americans who did not like wars. because you have everything in America. You have many people who make destruction weapons, but you also have in America people who do not like war. And Vladimir met some. And they had the idea of using one of the four, the last unused Saturn V rocket, to have a handshake in orbit. Okay, the Cold War was cooling between American and Soviets. So the Americans had made the moon landing to beat the Russian on the moon race. By the way, when I became chairman of the education committee, I was one of the first European. And one day at the Moscow Aviation Institute, the dean told me, Guy, I'm going to show you something. He took me to a big hall and he said, you just enter by yourself. So I entered and whoa! I immediately recognized what I had in front of me. I was one of the first Europeans to see the Soviet moon lander. And if they didn't have problems with the A-1 rocket, they might well have been the first people to go on the moon before, just a few weeks or a few months before the Americans. But that was it. And they hid it for many years. They didn't show that they had everything ready to go to the moon. So Vladimir in 1975 succeeded to make the Apollo-Soyuz. And there was a problem, because when you dock at high speed, like docking spaceships or docking an aircraft to refuel behind a tanker, you need millimeter precision to make the docking for the electrical connection or fuel connection. And if you go very fast, you cannot have the millimeter precision. So what you have usually is you have a probe that goes inside the cone, and you enter the cone. If you go deep to the bottom of the cone, you have the millimeter precision, and you lock, and then you can transfer, connect electricity, you can transfer the fluid, everything like this. But a probe and a cone, it looks very much like a male-female system. And that works very well for connection. But if you had that for the Apollo-Soyuz docking system, who would have the male side, who would have the female side? Technically, very simple. Politically, Americans or Soviet? Impossible. So Vladimir designed a system which was the APAS, the androgynous docking system, with petals, and you see a representation on the picture. It's the size of the monument we made to honor the memory of Vladimir in Réunion Island, where you have the two rings that will connect, and you have three petals on one side, three petals on the other side, which have the shape of a trapeze, so they can adjust, and when you push, you will have the millimeter docking precision, but it's the same both sides. For doing that, because Apollo-Soyuz in 75 was a big success, and many of us know that, and he got the Lenin Prize, which was a kind of Soviet Nobel Prize. In the 80s, Soviet Union disintegrated and gave place to Russia and also Ukraine, who was good for space activities, but mostly Russian were a federation, and they took over the space organization. And then things cooled down, and the Americans, the Russians, and the Europeans, and the Japanese decided to make the International Space Station. And you have an American woman who was the first woman to become the commander of an American space shuttle, who made a test docking of the American space shuttle to the Mir space station. And that woman so is an American astronaut and also cosmonaut, because in '75 she docked with the Mir space station and spent 1 week on board of the Russian space station. So she's an American astronaut cosmonaut. And she gave a speech at the Celestis. You know, Celestis is a company that sends the ashes of dead people in orbit or to far distances. And 2 years ago, they decided to send also DNA. And since I already was on their clients for my ashes, I'm not in a hurry to go, but I'm a client. They offered me to send my DNA. So I sent them a week of my hair, which was launched beginning of January last year in Cape Canaveral, with the ashes of hundreds of people and the DNA of a few dozens of people, and I was there for the ceremony. And at the ceremony, the main speech was given by Eileen Collins, the American spacewoman. And it was a 12-hour ceremony, and we had lunch. And I was with my dish getting some more food, and I came next to Eileen Collins. I said hello, and we, in a few words, found that we had friends many friends in common, because he was the most famous American astronaut, and I had many friends all around the world. And most thing, to dock the American space shuttle on the Mir space station, you had to do a docking space system with the petals, symmetrical. And who did that? Vladimir Syromyatnikov. He went to America and worked to Rockwell for 1 year in California to build the docking system with the American space shuttle. And Eileen Collins was a student of Vladimir Syromyatnikov to learn how to use the docking system. So, wow, we had, both of us, we were friends of Vladimir Volodya Syromyatnikov. I told her we have a science meeting in Réunion Island every year. Would you come? And because of Syromyatnikov, she said yes. And here on this picture, in the center, you have a woman, that's Eileen Collins, when she was a year ago in Réunion Island. First thing we did when she landed at the airport in Réunion Island, coming from her Texas, where she lives now, retired, we went to the monument that represents the docking system invented by Syromyatnikov. And that was it. And later, at the end of the year, we had many problems. At the end of we had an idea Oh, that when Eileen Collins had the anniversary, she was in Réunion, and we made the cake in the shape of the APAS docking system. Can we have the last slide, please? Okay, we had a small one and a big one, and you see it's a cake that reminds of the APAS docking system. You have a ring and you have the 3 petals. It's very symbolic, but this cake reminds of the symmetrical androgynous docking system invented by Vladimir Syromyatnikov. And later we had the idea, because you know Adriano and we all know how difficult it is to tell the politicians and the big company makers that they should work for peace and save employment and maybe make more money developing peacefully our development in space than making destruction weapons. But education is very, very difficult. We know it's difficult. I was 2 weeks ago in Cannes for Space Power, a world meeting, and with people, it was very difficult. Rick Tumlinson started space, organization. Oh, by the way, Jerry O'Neill, there is another 15-year-old kid who read the book when Jerry O'Neill wrote The High Frontier in '75, and the kid liked the book, and he says he was going to make a space habitat. He would do that because he said that government had too much bureaucracy. He had to decide himself. And in the world in which we live,
Hello? Hello, Guy?
okay, again, so the 15-year-old American kid said in the world in which we live, if he wants to do it by himself, he needs money, he has to be rich. So he started a small book company. And you know the small book company, it's Amazon. And the name of the guy, young kid, was Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
So in the year 2000, he was equal with Elon Musk, one of the richest people in the world, and he gave Amazon to his friends for the management to develop the work with Blue Origin. And we know how much Jeff Bezos is putting out of his pocket every year for the development of space activities. 1 billion out of his own pocket. 1 billion every year. And 3 years ago, he started the space tourism because he thought that was good for development. And the big media saw it's crazy billionaires about Elon Musk and Branson and Bezos, and all the big newspaper and big media were crazy billionaires. So you had Jeff Bezos, his brother, an 80-year-old American woman who had been in the 60s refused by NASA, and a young, rich Dutch guy, 18-year-old, who paid his seat 20 million, not billion. The following week, Jeff Bezos made 20 checks of 1 million each to educational organizations 1 million went for Rick Tomlinson, and other went to 19 other space organizations. None of the big media told about it. That's how the big media work. And that's why we have difficulties in education. So I'll say we have to find other ways. And I thought of the cake, so I have sent the announcement to thousands of people in Réunion and to contacts I had as a former officer of the educational committee of the IF, and to 600 worldwide companies to tell people, okay, tell your family and make in your home, make cakes that will resemble the docking system, because Apollo-Soyuz is beautiful. And Apple TV Plus made a series for all mankind in which they imagined that the Russians had won the race in '69, and then they compete with the Americans on the moon, on Mars, and they continue the Apollo system, and Apollo 30 in the 90s, they decide to make the Apollo-Soyuz docking. And the commander of the shuttle is an American woman, and the head of NASA is a woman, but the world is having problems, and a war is about to be declared between the Russians and the Americans. And they say the Russians and the Americans have been in orbit, the Soyuz spacecraft and the Apollo spacecraft with the American woman facing each other for several weeks, waiting for the order to dock. And there the order say, because of war preparation, Cancer gets ready to return to Earth, we cancel the Apollo-Soyuz docking. And the American commander of the Apollo says, no, I refuse. This is too important. I'm going to do it. And if you want this to work properly, you better tell people in Houston to help us. The head of NASA, the woman, says, this is an order of the President of the United States. I order you to come back. And then she says, she takes a breath, and after a few seconds of silence, say, here in Houston, I represent the President of the United States. Okay, I'll go with you. Okay, do the docking. Houston, please help them. And they make a successful docking, which is televised worldwide. And the President of the United States, who is in Air Force One, somebody tells him, look at the TV. And he looks at the handshake between the Russian and the American cosmonaut woman, astronaut, and the President takes a breath and says, stop the war preparation. That's why we want to make this cake. And we tell the people, do it. It's easy, everyone can do that, can do a cake that looks like the APAS docking system, the Apollo-Soyuz docking system, in their kitchen, and they should tell them to their friends, tell them to their kids, tell them to the place where they work, tell them to the people in their community where they work, and say, stop working. If you work for a weapon industry, stop working for making destruction weapons, and tell your company, tell your bosses to work for the development of space activities. And do it because everybody understands cooking. And if this becomes a famous cooking system, it will be the Apollo piece of cake. And piece of cake, c'est une pièce de gâteau in French. It's the same. A cake of piece of cake means also in English something which is easy to do. And Eileen Collins say, if we go and we stop making wars and we put the Americans, the Russians, the Chinese, the Indian, the Japanese, the European, all the weapon companies working all together, and instead of working, making destruction weapons, they work with space research, space renaissance international initiative. Eileen Collins say by the year 2030 we can have the Volodya ring, which is stand for Taurus, or we can have the Island Zero of Jerrystone by the year 2030. That's it. So let's tell people all over the world to make simple things like cakes and make cooking and pastry a world education tool for the development of humankind in the solar system. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Guy, a beautiful presentation you made. We heard a piece of history, of course, and you were part of that history, and that is beautiful. And well, I think we have to repeat the Apollo-Soyuz event, trying to make the new Apollo-Soyuz meeting in orbit, make the current wars to stop immediately. That maybe could be. Why not? Let's have a proposal. You maybe
Yes.
Maybe you know that we will probably okay. I am saying something that nobody still know outside of the SRI board, that we are probably going to have a meeting with the Vatican. We will make in 2026, probably in the springtime of 2026, we will have a small conference in Rome at the Vatican premises with the directors of the Specula. Specula is the space department, space and astronomy department of the Vatican, and we want to talk about our common humanist interest in developing civilian space development. We want to know if Catholic Church will maybe endorse this activity and invite all the people of goodwill, the goodwilling people of all the world, to work for this purpose, not for making weapons, not for killing each other, but to expand into space, expand humanity, go to take
Yes, you know that in 61, 62, when President Kennedy said the Americans would go to the moon in less than 10 years, he did it, and he didn't have artificial intelligence, he didn't have internet, and Eileen Collins said, over 1 year, we stop the wars and go into the Apollo-Soyuz spirit. With the tools we have, we can have the 1,000 people installation, living place in orbit, to develop mining the asteroids, to develop space transportation in the Earth-Moon system, to develop space power and change the world the way we view it. And you are going to talk with it with the Vatican.
Yes, we hope that maybe we will have some visibility also, because I think that this kind of meeting and several our partners will participate. Rick Tomlinson will participate. Frank White will participate. So we have a number of our friends and partners that are not SRI, but they want to come with us to meeting to this meeting, and I hope it will have some kind of resonance in at least in Italy, in the national media, and that will be, I think, will be useful for our cause, to push the companies, as you said, to adopt higher goals, and not only to work for defense, but to work for civilian goals. Yes, to relaunch the global economy, and yeah, we know what it will mean to start a civilian space development, to start working in the geolunar space, to start to making what Bezos has planned, logistic in the geolunar system, Amazon on the moon. Why not? Amazon.
So let's make piece of cake, cake of peace.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so I know we have some other SRI members here. We have Alberto, we have Ghanim Alotaibi, we have also Piero.
Yes. Hello,
So-
everybody. Good evening.
Please, okay, come alive. Okay, come on
Oh,
with your camera. And say
no
something.
color. I'm sorry. I have a bug. Sorry, black and white. Okay,
Black and white is beautiful. It's Louis Buñuel, the cinema, great cinema.
Yes, I'm speaking live from
Oh,
Cordes-sur-Ciel.
by the way, I have a short story. You mentioned Frank White.
Frank White.
I became a friend of J. O'Neill when I was at his Princeton conference in '84.
Yeah.
We were 100 people. 95 people had paid for their own pocket to attend the conference. And one evening we met with Frank White in a hall and say, why did we come to that meeting? So we started writing 5, 10, 15 lines of ideas. And after somebody came and gave jugs of small glasses of California wine, we drank the California wine and we found. And we found that we were here because we were members of the Solar Village. That was found by Frank White on that occasion.
Frank White is a great friend and is a great supporter of, what he calls space mass migration into space. Yeah, his main concept is the overview effect. You know about that. Because
Yes.
he made interviews with some astronauts, and everyone said that seeing the Earth from the orbit was really a kind of enlightening, because seeing how Earth is a small ball in the middle of the universe make immediately think that it is absurd to keep on fighting on Earth. we should be aware that we are on a small ball in the middle of the universe, and that we should be brother and not enemies for sure. So the point is that going outside and seeing Earth from the orbit is a great factor of peace, because if you go there and you look down, you become a pacifist. You can do anything else, because it's so evident that we are fragile and we should help each other, because we are fragile. We are so fragile in this small planet. So, Ghanim, are you there? Come out. Ghanim Alotaibi, please.
Hi, Adriano. Thank you for Guy, for this presentation. It's really great. I can't switch on my camera. I'm in a dark room, so if I switch it on, you're not gonna see anything. it's just dark.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, as you know, and I showed my presentation to Guy actually 2 years ago in Milano about space philosophies. I show the Soyuz Apollo docking as an example, as a historical milestone moving from competition to cooperation. But I didn't know the details mentioned
Yeah, that's very
today.
good.
Exactly. I didn't know the significance. I know it's very important, but it was really interesting, of course, to learn about this. So yeah, thank you very much for this.
Great. Anybody want to say something? Something else? Alberto, maybe?
I always said, I have been saying this for decades, that it is very strange that whenever you talk about space, many people say, "Oh, it's so costly, it's a waste of money." Okay, let's look at the numbers. What's the waste of money and the cost? It's weapons, it's military, it's militarization of the world, is as Guy has shown. It's so all the governments when someone speaks about increasing the military expenses, they are happy to do that. And then they are happy to save money on space. Look at what some governments that are not so suspect of being in favor of war, but in fact they are. Most of them are. And you see, unfortunately, it's happening all over the world. And yes, we have, of course, space can also replace war from the point of view of industry, because essentially, aerospace industry, as Guy has shown, is mostly devoted to war to nowadays. The largest expense in this field is devoted to destruction. So, but it's the same industry. It's Boeing, it's Lockheed, it's then let's move those industries to space instead of making weapons. Of course, this is not simple in the current climate in the world. It's absolutely not simple, but maybe we can. Of course, we must say that in all the possible occasions. For instance, starting from this, if we have meetings in the Vatican and so on, I hope that this Pope wants to go where his predecessor was going. And his predecessor was criticized for this, but he did a great job about that, about being against the wars. You hope that they go on like this.
Yeah, and the proportion is absurd, because I think we are spending 3 trillions per year now on weapons, because it was 2 trillions a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, before the most of the current wars were blasting. And I think we are going to 3 trillions very easily. That's the slide we have seen. The slide we have seen, it was an old slide, because
Yes.
it was of the slide of 2002. Okay, and we had 162 billions in America, in North America, 65 billion in Europe, and 70 billion in Russia and Eastern world. But that was 25 years ago. Nowadays, think that this number are 10 times more than 10 times more. Yeah, we have a 2 trillion, 2 trillion and a half.
But more than the total numbers of this kind. Consider, I like to consider this. Consider that only one aerospace military project, that is the American F-35, the total of the project has reached $2 trillion.
Yeah.
The total project, only the project F-35, not in 1 year, in the whole project,
Yeah.
reached $2 trillion.
Yes.
With $2 trillion, let's think what we could do in space.
Everything. Everything. Yes. Yeah, this is
just one project.
Is another testify that really money are not the problem. Money can be found, can be generated. Electronic money can be generated and directed where it is needed. And where it is needed, outside Earth, for sure. That's the only way. Very well. Dear friends, it was beautiful webinar and discussion. And so we will have many more. I think we will go to have open Zoom open webinars until the Congress. We will hold open Zoom webinars in order that all of our members can participate and discuss, because we will discuss many important topics during these webinars, preparing our Congress. And all of these webinars will be very useful because, you know, we are writing the thesis, the main thesis document about the status of civilization and perspective of expansion into space. And during the Congress, we will write our resolution, as we had the resolution in 2021. You remember, with the 12 points, no, to be realized. So we will make a balance how much that points were achieved or we advanced, let me say, and what it remained to do in order to start to kick off the civilian space development before 2030. That would be essential to restart the development and avoid the implosion of civilization. Yes, it's a really realistic view, because if we spend a lot of money for destruction and nothing, and very, very few for progress, it is very, very probable that civilization will implode, will be destroyed. And we have the mission to work against this perspective. We have the mission to call good-willing people to work for expanding into space and make resource wars on Earth obsolete, and allow all the people to work for a better future for our children and nephews and so on. And yeah, okay, so we will open our Zoom webinars and allow participants to directly discuss and make questions to the lecturers, and try to advance in our general knowledge and to understand better what we have to do after the Congress to support this vision, this progress vision. Okay, so if anybody wants to say anything more, we can close. And the next week, I think we have Ganim, probably, right?
Yes, I am still working on the presentation, but I am looking forward for it.
Yeah. Okay. So Ganim will talk about the solar space energy, how we can catch it, how we can use it, and so on. So, okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice week and see you next time. Ad Astra.
Thank you.
Goodbye.